It is 5:32, and we'll now call the meeting to order of the Civilian Police Review Board. Roll call.
Ricardo Diaz.
Here.
Scott Dossett.
Here.
Michael Lubinsky.
Here.
Megan McGinty.
Here.
Grace Mitchell.
Here.
Daryl Price.
Here.
Darius White.
Here.
Okay. Okay, next. Do we have any public input? Any public input? I see none. Okay.
Yeah, you gotta set that loud timer for me, right? I'm just gonna comment on a few. Christopher Hansen. I live in Urbana. Sorry, I'll slow down a little bit. Comment on a few things about the last meeting. I was surprised to hear that 2019-06, Preston read that as unfounded. My letter from the chief says improper conduct in 2 places in his findings, so I don't know if that was a mistake or... I would love a response, yeah.
Yes, you can.
Yes, so with that particular case, I believe Assistant Chief Searles actually talked to me about that I looked at part of it and I didn't show the whole picture. So part of it was what you said, yes. Okay.
And I guess my question for the board is, how frequently are you guys hearing that cases are unfounded when there was actually improper conduct? Are you guys getting rounded down answers? I'd encourage you guys to actually look at the chief's letter to see if they're unfounded or founded. I was not very pleased to hear the wrong answer in my case. Darius brought up last week the issue of multiple officers. As it stands, that is an issue. The complaint I tried to submit months back, which the Chief Seraphin wouldn't let go through because apparently it was past the time slot, even though Urbana Police repeatedly violated the FOIA law to get it past the time window. That involved the same officers as another complaint that you guys are about to get. So yes, that is happening. You guys won't know about it because you guys aren't hearing all the complaints because UPD is playing games with their time window.
Excuse me, I didn't understand what you just said. I didn't understand you.
There was a complaint that should have gone to your board that was denied by CPD, claiming that it was outside of the 45-day time window. You guys never saw it, you never will see it, according to Chief Seraphin. I'm just pointing out that had you guys heard that, along with Darius's concern that there might be incidences with repeat officers, that you are in fact not hearing about repeat officers because you're not getting all the complaints you should be getting. So that is a concern. You do have officers that are problematic over and over, but you're not going to know about it because of the way your complaint process works. Again, I'm wondering what it's going to take for Vasila Clark to actually do her job and respond to phone calls and emails. I've heard from another citizen now that she's not responding to people. I'm wondering what it is she's actually doing in the city. I also want to know why some complaints are decided so quickly and some take such a long time. From the last 2 meetings, I understand there are complaints that are decided within 24 hours and some that take the maximum of 45 days, what the police department has to respond to them. I'm curious what's causing that disparity. You guys were talking about, I had trouble understanding last week, I think you guys were talking about the citizen should know the appeal date or something to that effect, and that it should be written on the complaint form. I'm not entirely clear what the board was asking for, but what I wanted to encourage you to do is that the citizen should have the appeal date written on the findings letter from the chief. That way the citizen gets the findings letter and it has right there, if you want to appeal, you need to appeal by this date. I think that would be a good suggestion. And in regards to my complaint appeal, which you'll be hearing tonight, obviously there's a lot to go into, more than I can do so here, and I guess this isn't the time, but I want to point out that that complaint is not just a complaint about the officer's actions that night. It has now turned into a, why were some portions of my complaint ignored by UPD in their review, and why were some answered and why were some reframed. So it's now turned into a two-layer complaint, like the initial officer's actions that night and the handling of the complaint itself. I don't know if I should enter another complaint against the officers who investigated the first complaint, or if that thing makes things way too confusing, but the nature of my complaint has now expanded, I suppose. So I hope when you're hearing the complaint, you'll be asking, why did the officers do this? Why did they do that? And second, why didn't you actually address this in the complaint process? That's addressed in my appeal letter quite a bit. So I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I respond to a couple of your concerns? Okay, the complaint process, I know you mentioned that we don't get to hear complaints. We do get to hear the complaints that come before us. Okay, and as far as the city clerk, you said that wasn't doing her job. Okay, one of the things that we're not engaged in or involved in is the performance of employees. So, you know, if there was a concern about an employee, then you need to take that up with the human resources or that employee supervisor. But we don't address those issues, so we really wouldn't have any idea what was going on with an employee.
Can I respond really quickly to that point?
Yes, you can.
And it's in regards to something the board has talked about, which is I think you guys were postulating if you had the power or place to make suggestions in regards to the police complaint process. And to me, it's written very, very clearly in the ordinance. You don't just have the power to do so. You are tasked with making suggestions. So if one of my issues is that I can't submit a complaint because the human resources person isn't doing their job or because the police department is violating state documents laws, that is something that you can kick up and say, hey, we've got citizens concerned about this. They can't get our complaints to us because employees aren't doing their jobs. I can also go straight to the next person, I suppose, but it is your place. You're actually tasked with doing that.
Okay, well, I'm not going to argue with you about it, but that is not our job. Okay, the other piece that you mentioned was the length of time for complaints. This was the length of time that was set up within the ordinance when it was put together. Okay, we put a length of time in there. If we don't get the complaint within that time frame, it's difficult for us to do an appeal. So that's all I can say about that piece.
The story there is that I submitted a complaint well within the 45 days of when I received records from the Urbana Police Department. Part of that complaint was that the Urbana Police Department was violating the FOIA law by not delivering records in a timely manner. They're supposed to deliver them within 5 days. If it takes months, that's a violation of the state public records laws. That complaint was denied on the basis that it came in too late. So it is correct that the initial, I suppose, action that caused me to make those public records requests was outside of the 45-day window. But at least the portion of the complaint where I said, hey, UPD is violating FOIA laws was valid and well within the time window. So why Seraphin said, no, we're not processing this isn't entirely clear. At least the latter portion of the complaint should have been valid. I went to Vasilia Clark and said, hey, the chief wrongly denied this. I want to appeal it. And of course, she just ignores those emails. I can give you copies of those emails too. So when I appealed my last complaint, I just sent it straight to the board because Urbana public employees aren't doing their jobs. They're just ignoring me. So that's why you guys got my email directly, and you were probably confused, but that's the story behind that.
Okay. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, well, first of all, Mr. Hanson, thanks for coming again tonight. And I thought I heard you say that the findings letter from the chief may have not prompted information about the appeal process. And I just want to clarify, I'm looking at his November the 8th letter to you about 219-6 and the final paragraph. And as far as I know, most of the letters sent out for appeals that I've reviewed does say, in fact, that if you don't like his decision, you have 30 days to appeal that, and he, in fact, enclosed an appeal form for you.
Yeah,
so
I think there was
just backtracking on that a little
I think there was some confusion there. I was mentioning about putting the appeal by date on the chief's letter. I was only mentioning that in response to some of the discussion the board was having last week, which my understanding of that discussion was how can we make the complainant better understand when they need to file by. Everything you said is correct. Everything I said is correct. I think we're
Talking about two different things.
perhaps, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Any questions, Ricardo, anything?
I also think we've made a request for a new column on the report that we get so that it includes the appeal by date also, so
Okay.
we have it handy.
Okay.
That's good.
This was the discussion I'm referring to,
Yeah.
and it wasn't clear to me what you were asking for. Were you asking for information for the citizen to have or for the board?
For
to have?
everyone to have it so
Okay.
that whatever the citizen got, we also get so that we have a pacing of when somebody must file by.
Okay,
It kind of like the more information's out there, the more everybody can act on the same info.
sure. So that's the discussion I was responding to, and
Yeah.
I was just saying if the chief could put it on his letter, that would really help the citizen know I have to do
Yeah.
this by this time.
I think both. So everybody has that same
Sure.
info. So we're good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we need a motion to go into closed session for the purpose of conduct.
There may be more public input.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought she was with the press. Okay. I'm very sorry.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Emily Close. I live in Champaign. For those board members that I haven't seen before, I'm very invested in the complaint process. I filed 3 complaints against Champaign police officers, and I got to know Christopher Hansen that way. And first of all, I think tonight's kind of a historic moment, and I think it's a historic moment because today I watched the October 23rd, 2019 meeting in which I spoke at this meeting for the first time. And I want to quote Preston James. I listened to it a few times, so I got his language precise. And he said, the question was that I was in this chair and I was asking, well, how many complaints since you've been in existence since 2008? How many complaints have come to appeal before this board? And this is his answer. Since we've started, we've had 2 that actually came as an appeal. And my response was, that's comical, that's absurd. And so tonight, in 11, 12 years, you're hearing only the 3rd appeal. So I think that's a problem. And as I've said before, I think that there's a problem because I don't think there's trust with the community. Whether it's Champaign or Urbana, I don't think there's people feel like they will be heard, like they will be taken seriously. They think it's a hassle. It's not worth it. It takes guts to file an appeal. And people just don't want to go through it. And also, I understand that you're not in charge of staffing, but I do think that it's a little bit too locked down in terms of the staffing. Like in October, Vasilia Clark was here, Monique James was here, and Todd Rent were here. And then those people were not here last Wednesday. And that's a problem. So I didn't see anybody taking minutes. There was no minutes to approve, even though that was on the agenda, the minutes were going to be approved. So, and Vasilia is not returning my call. So I just also found out that she is half-time. So while you can deflect that and say we have to talk to the supervisors of those people, I think there's moving parts here that need to work together. Police department, the board, and the support of city staff. And I don't feel that way. I feel like there's 3 little colonies here, and that the parts are not efficiently working together. And I don't think the communication's there. I think she should have called me back. And it's difficult. If what you're saying is call the mayor, well, I have a call into the mayor as well, because I would like to understand what the problem was. I think there was a problem here last Wednesday. I think they had to wait 20 minutes for a quorum. And Chair wasn't here. There was no one taking minutes. I'm not sure what message that I was supposed to get from that, but I was really concerned because if you Google Civilian Police Review Board, you would get hundreds of thousands of hits. So this is, this is not just, Traffic Advisory Committee. This is what you're doing here is very important work. And I would like it to be treated as such. And I think that the information about the staffing changes should be well publicized. And thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the public? Anything else from the public? Okay, we now need a motion to go. To go to closed session? Yes. There is a motion. Is there a second?
I believe you have to state the reason for closed session.
Sorry.
Okay. We're going into closed session for the purpose of conducting an appeal hearing. Okay.
Second.
All right. Okay, 2 seconds. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. At this time, we need a motion to close the closed session.
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Get my paperwork in order. Ricardo Diaz,
Yes.
Scott Dossett, Michael Lubinsky,
Here.
Megan McGinty,
Here.
Grace Mitchell,
Yes.
Daryl Price,
Yes.
and Darius White.
Yes.
Okay. Now we will open the session for open session. We're back in open session now.
I move that we go back into open session.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, Mitch, I think we need a roll call for that.
Yeah, getting ready to, oh, okay. Roll call? Mm-hmm, you're right.
Yes.
Ricardo Diaz,
Yes.
Scott Dossett,
Yes.
Michael Lubinsky,
Yes.
Megan McGinty,
Yes.
Grace Mitchell,
Yes.
Daryl Price,
Yes.
and Darius White.
Yes.
Okay. At this time, I'm calling, a call to order, and we will call the hearing to order that we've been involved in, which is an appeal hearing. City staff will take the roll again.
We did it, yeah. We're good.
Okay, I'm tired, sleep, wake me up. Okay, based on the outcome, we do have a quorum, and now we will look at the outcome of the closed session. Okay?
I'd like to make a motion, Chairman, that I move to sustain the findings of the UPD Police Chief since they are supported by the evidence in Urbana Police Action Citizen Complaint Number 2019-6.
Second the motion.
Okay. Need roll call for that? Roll call?
Ricardo Diaz,
Abstain.
Scott Dossett,
Yes.
Michael Lubinsky,
Yes.
Megan McGinty,
Yes.
Grace Mitchell,
Yes.
Daryl Price,
Yes.
and Darius White.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, this is the results of the appeal hearing for Mr. Jensen. Is there anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to adjourn.
Second.
Okay. Time of adjournment.
It is 9:19.
Okay. We are adjourned.